Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Judy Shields here. Today, I'm so excited to welcome musical theater vocalist who has been performing as one of the theater's most iconic roles, the Phantom of the Opera. Yes, I did not stutter, the Phantom of the Opera. David Gaschen. Hi, David.
Hey, how are you?
Good. It's so nice to meet you. How exciting.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really excited to get to talk to you today.
Me too. Let's kind of just get into things. At 26 years old, you became the youngest performer ever cast as a Phantom in a professional production of the show. What was it like at that time, during that time in your life, at that age?
Oh, it was amazing. It was just last year. So,
I thought so.
uh, check, waiter, please, we're done. No, it was the most unbelievable time I've ever had. I was very, for a Phantom especially, I was very, very young. I was hired, and I was hired in Switzerland. We did the original cast in Switzerland, in Basel, Switzerland.
Wow.
So I had to sing Phantom in German, which
What?
was, yeah, I had to do the whole show in German. So luckily, that was my last class to get out of college, was German. So I knew how to speak it. I knew how to order food and ask where the bathroom was, but I knew how to pronounce it. So it really helped a lot, that last class. I thought, God, this is a joke here. When am I going to use German in musical theater? And my first big job was Phantom in German. So I did 2 years in Switzerland, and then I did 2 years in Hamburg, Germany as well. So I did 4 years altogether in doing the Phantom of the Opera and the Phantom of the Opera. But my wife and I had just gotten married,
Oh my
so
God.
we were living in Europe, and she wasn't working, so she would travel uh, throughout the entire country, and we had one of those Euro passes, so it was very cheap to fly to travel, and she didn't have to drive, and we had friends visit. It was the most unbelievable first year of marriage you could possibly imagine, but it was. I was very honored, and I was very, 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 very nervous, but I did it. It was fun. I had a blast.
Now, I've only seen Switzerland through movies and other folks that go, and it just looks amazing. Now, they don't really have a language. It's like it's France, Germany, and Italy. So why German? Why couldn't it be Italian?
Well, Switzerland speak their main, even though they're connected to, like you said, they're connected to Germany, they're connected to Italy, they're connected to, I don't know if
The
they're
French?
connected to Austria and France.
France, yeah, yeah,
So
okay.
those three countries, and
Yeah.
the German that they speak is called Schweizerdeutsch. It's a mixture of French and German, and I don't know if there's any Italian in there, but it sounds like the Swedish Cook to me from the Muppets. So I wasn't very good at that, but I was good. They would, if their main language was German, especially where I was living in Switzerland and Basel. If you went a little further south to like Neuchâtel or uh, southwest to Bern, they'd speak French.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
here it was, and then they'd hear me attempt to speak German, and then of course, they spoke English. So thank God. Because my wife went one time and didn't even try to speak. She just pointed at when she was ordering some food at a grocery store, and she ordered duck instead of chicken. So that was an interesting meal.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I felt really sorry for her. I'm like, sorry, honey. I'm so sorry. She felt
oh my
embarrassed,
gosh.
but it was
Daffy
it
Duck.
was it was great. It was amazing to hear their language and how they would use German words and make it Swiss German. Schweizerdeutsch is what they call it. And it
I've
was,
never heard that. I
oh
learned
yeah,
something today. Thank
it's
you.
it's amazing. They were the kindest people, and Switzerland is the cleanest country I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I would like to go
And
there one day.
and all their big cities, there's no graffiti. There's nothing. There's nothing. I saw no graffiti. There's no trash. There's nothing. I was in shock. I was like, whoa, this is not Houston, Texas. So it was wonderful.
Uh, that's amazing. Did either of you learn to speak more German after the
I
couple years
did.
you're
I
there?
did. I learned to get along pretty well, and I could go to stores, and if I need to buy something, I could tell what it was, and we didn't have phones then. There was no the cell phones weren't out and big by then, so we didn't have the little translator on there like you could talk
Can
into it and
now.
say that, yeah,
Yeah.
like you can now. So I had to learn the hard way by mistakes. So
That's amazing. Well, let's kind of go back. You were raised in Lubbock, Texas, and you earned a degree in vocal performance from Texas Tech University. At that time, what did a degree in vocal performance consist of?
well, vocal performance at that time, it was a classical music degree.
Okay.
It was I studied classical music. Although my voice teachers at the time knew I wasn't going to do opera, I was training to opera to the classical level of opera to get my voice as polished and trained as I possibly could. So I sang a lot of languages. I took a lot of music classes, a lot of music theory, which I don't like to this day. I had to take 2 years of piano proficiency. I took vocal pedagogy, teaching how to teach voice and how the voice works, and did lots of choirs, did lots of performance credits, and it was great. I started Texas Tech as a business major. And when I was a sophomore, let's call it my first sophomore year, I saw Michael Crawford in the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. And I was still a business major at the time, and I looked at my parents and said, I've got to be that role.
No.
And I switched to music the next semester. So
And
I got to meet Michael Crawford at the 25th anniversary of Phantom and told him that story, and he actually started crying. He started tearing up, And I was like, wait, I wasn't trying to make you cry. He goes, no, they're tears of happiness. This is great. So,
that's like full circle moment for you, wasn't it?
oh man, was it ever? Was
Did
it
you
ever?
cry? I would have cried if he cried.
Well, I was trying to act the tough guy, I guess. But after he left, I teared up a little bit. After
Yeah.
he turned around, I
I'm
looked at
gonna
my
tear
wife.
up
I'm like,
now.
yeah, totally, yeah. So,
That is so, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So
yeah.
blessed, right?
Oh, so blessed, so
Oh,
blessed,
man.
amazing.
I wanted to ask, because you mentioned before we were recording that you went to Chicago. Why Chicago, not New York?
Well, at the time, Chicago, I thought, wasn't quite as a shocking distinction between Lubbock and New York City. It was kind of
Okay.
the halfway point. It wasn't 12 million people, it was only 5 million people. And they had a good theater community there where I could start to get some roles under my wing. And I was there for 2 years, did a few shows while I was there. Mostly worked at Schlotsky's, but that's okay. I still love Schlotsky's. It's a great sandwich. But I did 4 or 5 shows there, and that's where it ended up that I auditioned for Phantom and got it. So definitely, God had a plan for me, and it was very specific. That was definitely a God wink. So.
Can you tell us a little bit about your audition? How did you feel walking in? Where did you do it, and how'd you feel?
Well, it was in the big theater downtown where actually the Phantom tour was in town. So
Okay.
according to equity rules, they have to have auditions every so often for Phantom for the equity rules for the agreement they have
Okay.
agreement they have with the producers. So they have auditions, and a lady had seen me in a show, and she said, "I want to be your opera agent." I said, "You're not going to make any money as my opera agent." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I want to do musical theater." She goes, "Well, I have some connections with the tours that come in with the casting directors there." It was at the time it was Johnson Lift Casting, and sure enough, she called me. She goes, "There's an audition for Phantom, and I want you to go in." I said, "Okay." And at the time, and I said, "Where is what for Broadway or for the tour or what?" She said, "No, for the original cast in Basel, Switzerland." I said, Did you say Switzerland?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Oh, great."
What
You
I
know,
needed to.
I thought, okay, well, everybody and their dog is going to be auditioning for Switzerland, right? And
Yeah.
I kind of went in that way thinking, I'll do my best. I'm getting married in 5 weeks. I don't care. I cared, but I wanted to do my best. But I was like, if I don't, I'm getting married in 5 weeks. So it's a win-win. And I went in there, and the lady, her name is Kristen Blodgett. I sang a song from Les Mis called "Bring Him Home."
Oh,
Yeah, which is my favorite song ever. So, and I sang Bring Him Home for her, and she said, "Do you know the Phantom music?" And I said, "Every word, you know." So I sang it for her, and then they brought me in the next day, and they offered me a cast, you know, to be in the cast in Switzerland, in Basel. And they didn't have a Swiss fan. They had, in Europe, they have what they call alternates. They have the first cast Phantom, and then they have the alternate Phantom, which means that Phantom performs 2 times every week to give the Phantom a break. So the first cast Phantom only performs 6 shows.
Okay.
And then the alternate performs 2. Well, I was the Phantom alternate and the male swing, which meant I covered all of the male chorus parts and the Phantom. And then they said it was in German. And I thought, oh, I'm
Lord,
scared.
he's testing you.
Yeah, be with me, Jesus. And I learned it. I learned it all in German. I did what I had to do. I said, this has got to be better than Schlotsky's. So, and it was fantastic. I made my debut October 20th, 1995.
I mean,
So,
your then fiance, you go home and you tell her this. What did she say? You're going to get married in 5 weeks and you're going to go to
yeah,
Switzerland.
she
Where'd you
goes,
get married at? Here or over there?
we got married in Lubbock. We both lived in Chicago, and we got married in Lubbock. So the guy's like, "Hey, we're going to Switzerland," and she thought, she was excited. She's like, "You're cool," but at first she thought I meant Sweden,
Okay.
not Switzerland.
Oh,
So she was expected to see all these beautiful, tall, incredible,
blonde.
you know, blonde people and,
Yeah.
you know, dark-headed, handsome, model-looking people. And instead, she saw Swiss people, which aren't ugly, but they aren't tall.
They were tall.
You know, she's like, "Wait a minute, where are all the tall, good-looking people?" And I'm like, "We're in Switzerland, honey, not in Sweden." She started dying laughing. She thought we were going to Sweden. So it was great. So yeah, we enjoyed that. But she took it like a champ. I mean, she was like, "Let's go. You got to live your dream. Let's go." And she's been my rock ever since.
Wow. Yeah, because I read here that you joined, Broadway production back in 1999, and to that day you portrayed the Phantom more than 1,300 times worldwide.
Yes.
I mean, during all those times, did you feel more nervous or relaxed as the performances went on? What's it
Well, I
like?
think as the performances went on, when I first went on the first few times, I didn't want to mess up,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to do my best, but I didn't want to mess up. And I was nervous about that because, first of all, you're in German. And if you go up on a word in German, it's not like I was going to make up some word in German that would sound similar
Oh boy,
because
yeah.
I didn't know enough words in German that could make it, so, which I did mess up a couple times. And I just went blah, 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 until I found the words. But it was after a while, it was more excitement about being able to perform the role than it was about getting nervous about the role. It got into, I can't believe I get to do this. I can't wait to get on stage and share the gift that God gave me.
I got maybe a silly question. I have a few friends that stutter, and when they talk in a different voice or sing, they don't have that stutter, just like the famous country music
Yeah.
vocalist. So I'm just wondering, because you had to sing in German, was it easier for you to sing in German than talk in German? Does that make sense?
Well, once I learned the words in
Yeah.
German for the songs, it was much easier to sing
Yeah.
because it was slower.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, speaking German really fast is a tongue twister if you
Yeah.
don't know it well, and
Right.
but singing it, most of the songs had pauses in between, and the words were elongated, so I could just hold a vowel out, But it was definitely a lot of spitting. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. My Christine had to stay a few feet away from me because I would spit all over her by the end of the show.
Oh my
So,
God. Are any of those on YouTube so we can watch it? Did they have?
not a Phantom. I have probably 30 or 40 videos of different performances of me doing other stuff with Phantom. I have 3 performances of when I got to do Jean Valjean a few years ago,
Oh,
that are on, and a lot of them are solo concerts that I did with symphonies, or
Okay.
I sing at a big church here called Stonebriar Community Church, and they film it all, and I put those on
Oh,
to
okay.
promote myself and stuff like that. But there's all kinds of stuff on there about. They have audio of me on Broadway and in singing in German on YouTube. Someone posted that. I don't
Oh,
know
I
who
want to
did.
hear it. Yes, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Yeah, so it was, they have one that's I think the full show of me doing it on Broadway. And then they have one of me doing the music of the night, in German
Oh my
when
goodness.
when I was in Hamburg, Germany. Someone recorded it and put it on.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, which is
I'll,
great.
I'll have to look that one up. That's amazing. So what's your social media? You have a social media we can find
Yeah,
you?
social media. I got to look up above your head real quick to make
That's
sure I get
okay.
it right. Well, it's David A. Gaschen on Facebook,
Okay.
and then on Instagram it's David Gaschen, no space, just at David Gaschen,
Okay.
and that's Gaschen. There's a C in there that messes everybody else
Yeah,
up.
right.
So, and then you can look up. I'm David Gaschen on TikTok. So I
Great.
have
Cool.
TikTok and I have Instagram and I have Facebook and I'm on Spotify. I've made 3 different albums.
Nice.
So I'm on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube Music. And then I have a channel that you can subscribe to on YouTube itself, David Gaschen. So
Okay. And also read that you have a David Gaschen voice studio. Talk about that.
I do. I teach, I have about 70 students that I teach. Most of them are in high school age that are trying to get ready to go to college to audition for colleges. So my studio started in 2010, where I just got off the tour of Phantom, and I had recorded a CD, I call it a kind of a Josh Groban sounding CD with the full orchestra. And I was trying to promote myself to orchestras. In the meantime, on the tour, some of the ballerinas on tour and some of the cast members had asked me to teach them voice lessons. And I said, sure. I said, great. I never done this before, but let's try it. And I enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd love to perform so much. I didn't think I'd love it near as much, but I really enjoy it. And I teach, the age range is from 11 to, I have a couple of 30-year-olds.
Oh, wow.
At one time I had a 67-year-old, so it kind of ranges, but most of the average age is high school because it kind of morphed into me getting kids ready for college auditions to go into, get into a college musical theater program or opera program. So I really enjoy it. And a lot of my kids have done well. I have one student who's in the national tour of The Outsiders right now. He plays soda pop. And
Wow.
his name is
Congrats.
Corbin Ross. And then another student who's the lead to Hell's Kitchen. Her name is Amanda Reed. She's on the lead to Hell's Kitchen on Broadway. And then one of my very first students, her name is Alicia Delarue, and she is in The Notebook, the national tour of The Notebook. And
Oh my
she
goodness.
plays the middle alley, the middle one, not the young one, not the old one, but the middle one in The Notebook. And she's fantastic. She was in the original cast of Hamilton. I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I taught her that one, I taught her. So, yeah, but
Oh,
it was great. And I had another student who played Fontaine in the national tour, Haley Dorch. She played the national tour of Les Mis as Fontaine when she was 19 years old. She got cast. So, yeah. So I've been very fortunate. God continues to bless my life in so many ways, and I just take what He gives me and go with it,
Passing your talent on, paying it forward, aren't you?
Yeah, paying it forward, just like my voice teacher did to me. So,
Yeah. Boy, we're gonna have to interview some of your students. They sound like they've got some
yeah,
great gigs, right? Give them some
yeah,
screen
great gigs.
time.
Yes, yeah. And I'm glad they're traveling and not me. That's good.
Well, you
I'm,
sound
I'm
like you did a lot.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's after a while though, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go back to my bed at home for a while. But these
So
kids are
when,
young, they'll do anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you were overseas, what was the most beautiful place that you performed at?
Oh man, the Basel Music Hall was gorgeous. It was
Okay.
very modern, but it was brand new. They built it for Phantom,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was incredible. And the theater in it's called the Neue Flora Theater in Hamburg was beautiful as well. It was huge. It was a gargantuan theater. It was 2,800 seats or something like that. It was really big, and the stage was ginormous, so you could act as obnoxious as you want. It still didn't look big, so I like that. Um, and I got to perform a few times I got to perform for Swiss Air, which was they were our sponsors for Phantom, at a couple places in the Alps, which was
Oh,
incredible. Yeah, I got to sing, just south of the Matterhorn, and I got to sing,
really?
and yeah, in Gstaad, and it was incredible. But my favorite place to visit was a place called Engelberg,
Oh,
Switzerland. Yeah, it's a little tiny. It looks like one of those little Christmas villages that people
oh,
collect for Christmas,
yeah.
and it's right tucked inside of these huge Alps. And there's a Benedictine monastery right in the middle of it. And the Benedictines their windows on their churches they were clear. They didn't have stained glass
Oh,
because of the surrounding, all the mountains and all
beautiful.
yeah, and the greenery and the snow. They didn't need it. So
Right. God gave them their stained glass, didn't he?
yeah, if I could go back there again, I would go back in a second.
And
My
it's
wife and I love that place.
this
So,
might be a silly question, not knowing about altitude. Did it bother you being higher up? You said you went up. Does that affect your
yeah,
voice?
sometimes it does, but it was so weird where I sang. It was actually lower than where I grew up. Where I sang
Oh,
in these places in the Alps, it wasn't high altitude yet because we hadn't gone up the Alps yet.
okay.
So it was lower altitude than Lubbock, Texas, which you don't think of altitude in Lubbock, Texas, but
Right.
we're on a cap rock in Lubbock, so it was up almost 4,000 feet above sea level. So,
Yeah.
but in the Alps where we were down 500 feet, so it didn't bother me. But when I was on tour and we'd go to Denver or we'd go to Albuquerque or Santa Fe or
Mhm.
Taos,
Yeah.
oh man, that did not work well with me. They called it dry and high,
Yes,
right? So
right?
you were
Oh, oh, got a
really high and
migraine.
then it dried out
Hmm.
everything. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was tough.
Got like
But
altitude sickness,
oh yeah, yeah. I
right?
mean, by the end, the first time when I subbed in on tour once, we were in Denver,
Oh,
and I subbed in on tour, and by the end of the masquerade at the beginning of the second act,
yeah.
I sang the first line and I was out of breath. I wasn't moving and I was out of
Oh,
breath. And by the
yeah.
end of the first chorus, I was going, and I was wondering, I was like, why do they have oxygen tanks on
They
each
do?
side of the stage? They have them for the ballerinas and everybody who's doing all the dancing, the hard stuff. So when they come off, they can get oxygen.
No
And I
way.
felt really stupid because I was standing there and I needed oxygen the first time. I was like, I can't finish a word.
Oh my
So,
gosh. So,
yeah, but it was great, and it teaches your body to adapt really quickly when you're on tour. So,
wow. Okay. Not a silly question.
not at all.
There you go. So now you live in Frisco with your wife and you have two kids. What do you guys do for fun over there in Frisco, Texas?
Well, you're gonna laugh. Speaking of silly, I am a bass fisherman. I
All
love to
right. I
fish.
love
Yeah,
fishing.
I'm addicted to fishing, and my wife and I love to go out. We have two kids, so we try to visit them. My daughter is a senior at Texas Tech,
Oh,
and my
nice.
son just got married, and he and his wife live down in Houston. So we go
Okay.
down there, but we travel. We try to travel to them, and we stay pretty busy. We both work from home most of the time. So when I'm not singing in a concert or something, I'm here
Yeah.
teaching, and she works from home here for a company, and it's nice to be home. It was really nice. So we stay
Yeah.
busy doing that. She loves to travel, and I love to eat. That's why I'm trying to keep this head and shoulders so you can't see my belly. But it's we love to try new food and stuff like that. And she loves to, during the spring, she can't wait to go out and garden
Uh-huh.
and I try to, that kind of fun stuff. So
Is Frisco close to Dallas? Is it north of Dallas?
yeah, it's
Okay.
about 20 miles north of Dallas. I mean,
Okay.
it's a suburb.
All right.
So, but it's right, we call right up the tollway. Of course, the people in Dallas, like in Highland Park and down south of what 635 is, they
Okay.
think it's in a different state. So, but we're only, in Texas, 25 miles is a drop in the bucket. So,
Yeah. Very
yeah.
cool. Just want to say congratulations for being inducted into the Buddy Holly Walk of Fame for outstanding contribution to music. Where is that located and how was the ceremony?
Oh, it was great. It's actually in Lubbock, Texas.
Okay.
Buddy Holly's from Lubbock, so he was born and
All right.
raised in Lubbock. And it was actually in Lubbock. And when I was, let's see, 2006, I don't know, I was 35 or something like that. And they called me and said, I'm getting inducted, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, because there's big, huge names. Waylon Jennings is
Yes.
there, and John Denver is there, and Mac Davis. Mac Davis is from Lubbock. So they were all in the Dixie Chicks, they were
Yeah.
all inducted, and I thought, wow. And I was inducted with a friend of mine who grew up, we both went to the same high school. She was my sister's age. She's a couple years older than I was. But she had been doing Broadway for years, and she had done like 10 Broadway shows. And I was still on my first one, right? So I was like, to get, when I accepted my award, I said, I'm really excited to be accepted with Jennifer Smith and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Together, I've done one show, she's done 11. So together we've done 12 shows on Broadway, and it was, but she was fantastic. It was such an honor to be nominated with her. So, but to try to live up to the Buddy Holly, tradition and his great music, I couldn't believe it. It was such an honor to be nominated and to be inducted. Made my dad very proud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure after I seen a couple of your things, it's well deserved.
Oh, well, thank you.
You did have a
Thank
great
you so
voice.
much. Yeah.
That's cool. So I read here also in 2018, you received the Texas Tech Distinguished Alumni Award. What's that all about?
Well, it's when being an alumni, I guess
Yeah.
I'd done enough stuff that people knew about. I think Phantom helped
Yeah.
a lot. I call it the P word. It's the jelly. It's like Jelly of the Month Club. It just keeps on giving. And but they inducted
Cool.
me for my contributions to society and living up to the Texas Tech mantra of
Yeah.
from here it's possible. So that was a huge honor too, because I'm a huge Texas Tech fan. I've always loved Texas Tech growing up, and I love Lubbock. It's
Yeah.
the best place you could have grown up in was Lubbock, Texas. And sure, it's not as pretty as some cities. There's
Yeah.
farmland all around it, and there's dust storms and stuff like that. But you cannot beat the people in Lubbock, Texas, and at Texas Tech, and to be honored among them. When I see all those great people who were honored, I mean, I was in shock again that they asked me to do that. So,
So do you still sing around the house? Sing in the
oh,
shower?
all the time, yeah, all the time. I don't know if my wife still likes it or not, anyways, but I'm doing it. So, yeah, I still sing all the time.
Good.
There's nothing like singing to put you in a good mood,
I bet. Yes.
no matter if you can sing or not. I mean, if you can't sing and you're singing, you're happy.
I still do it. My kids look at me. I said, I don't care. I know all the words. It might not
Yeah.
sound like that, but I know all the words, and I'm going to sing when
Exactly.
the dogs aren't howling yet. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, my dog does like to howl when I get to a certain volume.
I bet.
I get loud, he starts singing opera with me. So he starts, starts howling away. So, yeah, I love singing.
Oh, well, David, we appreciate you taking the time to call us. It's wonderful to have met you. What a career. It's so excited. I found out a lot of cool things all about you and singing in German. I can't wait to find that on YouTube. And actually, this recording will go up on our YouTube channel, the Hollywood Times Official.
Oh,
And
good.
so we'll send that to you as well. Any parting words for our viewers?
I'm just really happy to be here, and to all the people out there who are sad or who are lonely or need help, just keep praying and keep make sure that you have someone there to be with you to help you.
Yes, because we're never alone.
Yeah,
We
you're
all have
never alone.
families somewhere. You have friends. If family's busy,
Yeah,
there's always a friend. And I've been through loneliness and depression, and it's all up in here.
yeah, it
You gotta
is.
figure out
You
with
know,
here and up
you
there.
got, yeah, and to get someone to help you cipher that out, if it's not
Yeah,
happening, that really helps. So,
exactly. Life is
yeah.
too short, and we never know. So you got to just
Oh
be
yeah,
happy every day. Say hi
that's
to
right.
everybody.
That's right.
All right, David. Thank you. You have a blessed day, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Thank you so much, Judy.
You're welcome.